Hello, you guys, and welcome back to Mystical Visions. So, today's reading is interesting to say the least because today we're taking a look at your villain era. What does that mean? Today we're going to take a look at some of the darker, deeper emotions that may be wanting to come to the surface, but because they are dark and icky, we don't allow them to very often. So today we're going to dive really deep and take a look at some emotions and situations that you may have been ignoring or worse, pushing under the rug. And it's time to let go of all of it. So yeah, we're going to the dark side today. So to start off, I have 3 piles. For pile number 1, we have a garnet. Pile 2, we have an amethyst. And for pile number 3, we have a sodalite. So, as always, I'll give you some time to look at these cards, these piles, and see which one calls to you intuitively. And the timestamps, as always, are in the description below. If this resonates, please do remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. It really helps the channel out so much. And yeah, without much further ado, take a look at which pile resonates with you, and I'll see you at your reading. Pile number 1, hello, welcome to your reading about your villain era. So if you picked this gorgeous garnet, then this is your reading. So as you can see, I have 2 piles of pre-shuffled cards. We have some tarot cards and we have some oracle cards. And of course, I shuffle them with a format in mind. Never gonna shuffle without format. So these first 4 cards, we have 2 cards and 2 clarifiers. These are going to tell us about what this feeling is, this dark, deep, messy feeling is, and why it's coming up, what's causing it. These cards will tell us what wound this feeling comes from, what wound is being triggered by the situation that you're in. And then we'll take a look at why this is coming up in the context of what lies ahead and why will you be needing to heal this before whatever is coming in comes in. And then finally, we'll take a look at some advice from the animal spirit cards, as always. It's my favorite advice deck. But okay, let's get started. So we're going to start by looking at what this feeling is and why you're feeling it. What's causing this feeling to come up? So first we have death. Oh, okay. So, jumping straight in. These cards don't play around, you guys. So, there is an ending that has happened or is about to happen, and it's kind of on the horizon, like with this sun here. The light is kind of bouncing off it. This deck, you guys, is glossy, and the light kind of bounces off it all the time. But do you see the sun here? It's setting. It kind of feels like you feel an ending is on the horizon and you keep avoiding it. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to mean that, something that you like is coming to an end per se, but maybe your understanding of it is coming to an end. Maybe a certain dynamic is coming to an end. So say, for instance, you are a creative person and this whole time you've been creating a certain way, and you have recently started to realize that that method of creating does not resonate with you anymore, and maybe you're making assumptions about, oh, maybe I'm not meant to create at all. Not necessarily true. We'll look at the clarifier, but what I'm getting is that it's not so much that this ending is just like a full stop to everything that's going on, but it's more an ending of a cycle of thought and belief and, emotional patterns. But let's see, clarifying death, we have the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. Interesting. It's two major arcana, so this is definitely a significant emotion. Okay, maybe this death feeling, this ending feeling is kind of leading you to almost think that you are cursed in some way, you are unlucky in some way, or fate will just never smile upon you because of all these endings that are in your life and have been quite frequently. I feel like you are someone who transforms quite a bit. It's like every other season you are a different person. And that may be because you've had a lot of death moments in your life. This probably doesn't even surprise you anymore when things come to an end, because you've kind of accepted that each ending is necessary. However, maybe this is meta. Maybe it's like what's coming to an end is how you perceive endings itself. So what's coming to an end is you thinking, oh, I'm just destined to go through all these endings. I'm just destined to never have anything stable in my life because I'm unlucky, or, the universe hates me, or whatever thought pattern is causing you to stay stagnant in this death energy. Whereas death is never really death. It's usually a transformation, a rebirth. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes form. And so I think what's coming to an end is your understanding of endings, where you are not seeing it so much as the end of everything, but rather a transformation of it. And this might be triggering these feelings of like, oh, it's a wheel, it's a cycle, and it's a cycle that never goes my way. It's a cycle that I am a victim of. That kind of feeling might be coming up a little bit. And that's okay. When we react, especially to emotional things, it's usually a visceral reaction. And our visceral reactions come from our past situations that we've been through, cycles, that kind of thing. So it is perfectly understandable that you feel afraid and you feel insecure and you feel unlucky or unwanted, or, any of those icky feelings that make you feel like you don't deserve for anything to stay in your life and stay static in your life. But I'm not gonna try to explain that any further because I'm feeling called to look at these next two cards, okay? So the next two cards, we have the Hierophant. These are all major arcana. These changes that are coming your way or that you're going through are massive. Pile number one. This almost feels like a phoenix moment. I'm not talking about just the Hierophant, just the fact that all three of these cards so far are major arcana. It feels like this is kind of like a defining period in your life where you are doing so much healing and so much inner work that it just completely changes who you are forever. I might actually see if I can adjust my light so it's not like directly in the Hierophant's face. Apparently not. Okay, that's fine. Okay, we're just gonna have to deal with it. Okay, but the Hierophant, that's what the card looks like. Okay. Yeah, I think it's time to come to terms with the fact that this transformation is so deep rooted inside you that it's gonna change you forever. And while you've been through a lot of transformations in the past, I do feel there is an almost permanent quality to this one for some reason. And with the Hierophant talks about traditions and systems and things being a certain way for a very long time. And for that to come up, you might, well, first of all, you might have very strong fixed sign placements. So your fixed signs are Leo, Taurus, what's the water one? Is it, well, I know the air one is Aquarius and the water one is Scorpio. So Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius. Any of those might have placements in your big three. But the point is, you might be someone who does not enjoy change very much, which is ironic because I feel like you are definitely someone who has gone through more change than most of us do in one lifetime. So I think that might also be a little triggered right now. That feeling of nothing is stable, everything is changing, and I feel like I'm caught in a whirlwind. That might be something that comes up as well. And with the Hierophant specifically, I do feel like you enjoy a sense of constancy, if that's a word, a consistency. And when things are thrown in your path that do not align with your idea of who you are, where you are going, and what you are meant to be and do, it almost like sends you on this downward spiral all the time. And that's because you feel like you are losing out on something important because you have to spend all this time dealing with this death moment over and over and over again. But the irony is, the sooner you accept this moment of transformation, the sooner you accept that these transformations are happening for you, not to you, is when they stop becoming so frequent and so painful. Yeah, transformation is painful, right? We can all agree transformation is painful. But the second you accept that it's not a personal vendetta that the gods have against you, it is simply your opportunity to learn and grow and also just start fresh all the time. You know, a lot of people tend to be stuck where they are due to circumstance. And, you know, I believe that we all choose our own fate, choose our own destiny before we come to this planet. And a lot of people, a lot of souls rather, a lot of higher enlightened versions of souls on the planet right now tend to choose lifetimes where they are quite stuck in one place and never changing, just to have an easier life. But I feel like you would be someone, at least in this lifetime right now, you'll be someone who would hate that. I'm going to be honest, you would be someone who would absolutely hate the idea of being stuck. And that's because deep down you understand that change is a necessary part of you in this lifetime, of who you are today, right? And to then hate the idea of change because it doesn't align with what you see as safe, I think that's where the cognitive dissonance is showing up a little bit. But to clarify the Hierophant, we have, oh my gosh, the Emperor. What is this? Look. And do you know what's funny? Is both the Hierophant and the Empress are Taurus. And I think death might be Scorpio. There's very strong fixed sign energy here. Oh, wow. I'm a little spooked, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm a little bit spooked right now. But, okay, the Emperor's creative power, a sense of being solid inside yourself rather than externally. I think, oh, sorry, that's my creaky chair. It's like extra creaky today. But I think the feelings that are coming up might have to do with your internal sense of security. I think that might be the theme of this transformation going forward, is this feeling of knowing that no matter how the world around you changes, no matter what life puts you through, You are safe, you are loved, and you are important. And this, I think the feelings that are coming up are definitely instability. And I think that's because you do see an ending. Or alternately, you might be someone who sees endings where they don't have to be. Now, what do I mean by that? So I think sometimes we get so used to things falling apart that almost becomes like a comfort zone, even though it is the most uncomfortable feeling in the world. We start to kind of anticipate it and almost chase endings because it's not comfortable, but it is familiar. We know how endings go because we've been through so many. We understand the process of grieving, healing, moving on, right? And that's familiar because we've done it a million times so far. But when things go well, when things feel secure, when they feel strong and powerful and comfortable and safe, sometimes we get in our own way and we self-sabotage in order to create that ending. Why? Because it's familiar. Because feeling safe and feeling loved and feeling wanted and secure is not familiar. And so we don't know the protocol for it. And so our monkey brains, the one whose job is only to keep you safe and to protect you from anything unknown, our monkey brain will kind of kick in and be like, ooh, this is uncomfortable because I don't know how to save you from this if this goes wrong. Why don't we create a familiar environment, in this case an ending? Why don't we, break up with this person, leave this job, leave our family, whatever, leave whatever is making us happy? Because I know how to protect you from that, but I don't know what to do with this. Does that make sense? And so because of that, sometimes we might create a false sense of doom almost in order to feel comfortable. And I put air quotes uncomfortable because it's not comfortable, it's just familiar. So that's an overview of the feelings that are coming up for you right now. So this would be a great point to assess and be like, okay, does this resonate with me? If yes, then the rest of the reading is definitely for you. If not, you're very welcome to pick another pile or stick to this reading anyway and see what comes up, or just pick a different reading on my channel. I've got loads of those. But let's look at our next pile, which is what wound is being triggered by these feelings. Now, I have kind of gone into this a little bit already. We've kind of made a few assumptions, but let's see what these feelings are really triggering. We have the Three of Wands in reverse. Not wanting things to change, not wanting to look beyond what's familiar. Staying where you are, staying in your comfort zone. So I think this might be triggering a sense of maybe you've been someone who was, kicked out of home very young, or you were kind of pushed out of a certain circle. And that was a foundational core memory for you. And that might be the reason why this is kind of very triggering, this feeling of like this constant feeling of, oh, this is going to come to an end and then what I'm going to do. It's like you are not letting yourself take anything for granted, which in most cases is true, right? We should never take the good things for granted. However, there is a way to do that securely and there is a way to do that insecurely. And, sometimes we say, oh, I'm just not taking this for granted. I will constantly be on my toes. I will constantly do more than I know I'm capable of at any given moment, out of a sense of fear that, this situation will be taken, this opportunity will be taken away from me, this person will leave me, whatever the situation is. Sometimes sometimes we tell ourselves we're doing it because we don't want to take this person or this place or these opportunities for granted, when really what we're doing is overextending and hyper-focusing and just spiraling because we're afraid it will be taken away. And so with the Three of Wands in reverse, I do feel like there may have been a moment in your past where it's like the rug was pulled out from under you. Like you thought you were secure and comfortable, and then out of nowhere, something big happened. Like the best example I can think of, and this doesn't have to be your situation or your past, but it's like, say you were very, very young as like a teenager, and then you had adults in your life threaten to kick you out the house because you didn't do exactly what they wanted you to do, or because you misbehaved, or whatever. Those things can be quite formative as experiences, those things can mess with your brain chemistry to a point where you feel insecure about feeling at home anywhere. And so maybe deep down, you crave the sense of familiarity for no reason other than you don't want to be kicked out. Sorry, guys, I had to stop and change the camera angle because it was bothering me. But to clarify the Three of Wands in reverse, we have the Seven of Coins in reverse. There you go. A fear of investing in anything or anyone lest it be taken away. Yeah, I definitely see a very early wound that is being triggered where your sense of security was almost like yanked away from you. And obviously this would cause some complications. But if this wound is coming up now, it means you've done a lot of healing already, because this is a deep wound. It's not like a surface level one that will just go away if you do enough healing, if you meditate enough. This is a deep, deep rooted wound that is not going to go away until you give it time and active, healing processes. Only then can this be truly, truly healed. Okay, so I don't want you to feel like this is never going to go away, or, oh, I've been working so hard on healing this and it's still here. It's going to keep coming up because it's gone so deep. It is a traumatic memory, and traumatic memories don't really ever go away. They just get slightly easier to manage every time we work with them. But yeah, okay. The next two cards, I feel like I've been waffling on. We've got the Four of Swords in reverse. Refusing to relax, refusing to rest. I do think you might be someone who does way more than is necessary. You do way more than you need to do because you worry that if you don't do enough, that you will be thrown out to the wolves. The wolves. Sorry, this is heavy. I don't mean to laugh at your situation, of course not. I laugh when I'm stressed, and this feels stressful. Yeah, with the Four of Swords in reverse, I feel like you are so concerned about being thrown out. That's the only example that keeps coming for me. Yeah, I think a lot of you guys who are watching this pile might have experienced something like that, being forced to move out of your home, being kicked out when you were very young, or just being abandoned a lot. There's definitely an abandonment wound coming up here. But I think somewhere in your very young, very impressionable mind, you kind of started to think that the only way to... Okay, you started to think that if you had just done enough, if you had just worked hard enough, or if you had just saved enough money, or if you had just been a better child or better adult, whatever, then you could have avoided this pain. But that's simply not true, because the pain didn't come from you. You are not the reason the pain exists. You are simply the recipient of it. Does that make sense? You are not the reason you got kicked out of the house. You are not the reason you had the rug pulled out from under you. You are simply the person it happened to. And in saying that, what I'm trying to tell you is you need to step out of the perpetrator role, because a lot of that comes with a heavy side dish of guilt. This was not your fault. And your job now, moving forward, is to simply heal. I feel like you are someone who does not like to be called a victim of anything, which is why I'm being so careful with the words. You are not someone who enjoys feeling pitied, which, that's an ego thing, and we'll move on from that because it's a whole other video for another day. But the point is, there might be a mental block there in accepting that this was not your fault, because you hate the idea of playing the victim so much. And I think that's kind of getting in your way. But to clarify the Four of Swords in reverse, we have the Seven of Cups, illusions. Yeah, I do think you've made up a lot of false narratives in your mind to try and reconcile it, because it's just so illogical in your mind that someone would hurt you so much for no reason, for seemingly no reason, that your mind is kind of coming up with reasons, because that's what the mind does, right? It will make up a reason so that you can tell yourself, okay, I'll avoid this in the future, and then this won't happen to me again. It's kind of like a protective mechanism built into your brain. But that's the wound that's being triggered by this sense of ending. So there is something to work on, but let's look at why this is coming up now. What lies ahead? What future event is coming in that's going to need you to be healed from all of this? So the first card we have is Child of the Cosmos. The intelligence of the universe lies within you. I think this is a big part of your spiritual journey, in the sense of, once you work through this wound, through this feeling of abandonment and, all the wild and wonderful stuff that comes along with it, I think it might lead you to some new psychic gifts that will break through for you, part one. But more importantly, it might lead you to channeling wisdom. Even if you don't do it on like a public scale, it doesn't matter. I think you are destined to know more than you know. And the reason that you need to heal all this is because it's kind of like a block in your mind, where you've told yourself that you understand the situation, but you really don't, because you won't allow yourself to feel the emotional implications of what happened to you. And that's kind of like a block on your third eye, almost, or like on your crown chakra, just your connection with your highest self. It's like you've pulled the wool over your own eyes, trying to make this make sense. But it does not make sense, part one, because it is not rational. Whatever happened to you, whoever did it to you, did not do it for a logical reason. They did it for irrational reasons, for selfish reasons, whatever reasons. The point is trying to make yourself the perpetrator in the situation in some way where you kind of feel a sense of control over the situation is ironically getting in the way of your healing, because you want to approach this logically, but it is an emotional wound. We can't apply logic to emotions. That's not how it works. But once you work through, well, you can't really work through it entirely, really. Not in real terms anyway, because, these things take a long, long time. But once you commit to working through this wound honestly and openly and vulnerably, is that a word? Vulnerably. That's when you start to see your psychic gifts kind of pick up steam. And that's when you'll start to notice that you are becoming wiser and more insightful. And you might even learn things about yourself that you didn't even know you were capable of, purely because you kept yourself. I mean this in the least victim blaming way possible. You kept yourself in this feeling of constantly chasing a sense of control. Is that a run-on sentence? Yes, it is. Okay. Next we have Akasha. Your guidance is divinely guided. What did I just say about you channeling and psychic gifts breaking through and the intelligence of the universe lies within you? There are definitely some big time channeling gifts coming through for you, part one. That's great. And the synchronicities in this pile are insane. I don't even know where to begin. But yeah, I think you have some serious abilities that are beyond human understanding that are coming your way if you will just step out of your own way. So let's take a look at some advice, and these are the Animal Spirit Oracle cards. First, we have the Snake Spirit in reverse. Time to heal. Can we focus, please? Thank you. Time to heal. And we have the Coyote Spirit. Trust in divine detours. There we go. So I'm just going to read the Snake Spirit one from the book because I do think it is very, very pertinent. So that's number 55, which again, repeating numbers. I told you the synchronicities are wild. Okay, Snake Spirit, protection message, time to heal. No matter how much you may have lost or how you've been disappointed, you are called by the Snake Spirit to shed the past and practice radical self-acceptance now. Only by forgiving yourself can you move on, regardless of whether anyone else is ready for healing. You have been weak, but now you are becoming strong and developing wisdom, and you will do better in the future. Remember, it is often the one who has been wounded who has the greatest power to help others heal. So that is your villain era message, pile number 1. I hope it resonated, and if it did, then please remember to like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps the channel out a lot. Thank you so much for being here. Ooh. I think I have to sneeze. Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry about that. Thank you for being here and sharing your time and energy with me. I really appreciate it. Stick around to the outro for another reading on my channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye. Pile number 2, hello, welcome to your reading about your villain era. So today we're taking a look at all the deep, dark, murky emotions and the wounds and all that stuff that you have been avoiding. Okay, so if you picked the amethyst crystal, if we can focus, that'll be great. Then welcome, this is your reading. So I've gone ahead and pre-shuffled your cards, and the way this is going to work is first we're going to take a look at 2 piles of tarot cards. These will tell us what this feeling is and why it's coming up. Oh, this will tell us what wound is being triggered by this feeling that's come up right now. Right? And then finally, we'll take a look at your oracle cards, which will first tell us why it's important for you to heal this right now because of, what's coming in the future. And then finally, we'll take a look at some animal spirit cards, which will give us advice. All right? I must warn you, there might be some sneezing. And also, this will be a long reading because pile number 1 went way longer than I anticipated. So, to start with, what is this feeling that you have been avoiding, brushing under the rug, or is just coming up right now? The first card is the 4 of Wands. Celebration. Okay. Interesting. So usually this card means a wedding or celebration or, something to be very, very happy about. People gathering together and having a good old time, that kind of thing. So for this card to be here, might be one of 2 things. 1, imposter syndrome. People are celebrating you and you don't like it because you feel that you don't deserve it and you didn't really earn the idea of being celebrated by people. Alternately, you might be someone who worries a lot when they have a reason to celebrate. Now, what does that mean? I feel like that might resonate a lot more with you. It's this sense of dread when things are going well, because you might have a history of, things going really, really well, and then suddenly there's a drop. And things are going terribly. And then again, you've had a peak where things are going really, really well. And then boom, things are awful again. And what that can create in our minds is kind of a negative association between good things and feeling bad. We feel like when a good thing happens, it is inevitably going to lead to a way worse thing happening. And it's like a disproportionate good versus bad, where the bad somehow has been way, way worse than how good the good has been. Does that make sense? But I think things are going well, and that might be kind of pushing you to panic a little bit because you worry that if things are going well, that means inevitably things are going to be absolutely disastrous very, very soon. And so because of that, you might be kind of forcing yourself to not celebrate your highs and to not be happy and not be excited about things going right for you. You might be kind of forcing yourself into a false sense of misery. I mean, the misery is very real, let's be honest, but it's not necessarily caused by things around you. And you might be forcing yourself into feeling that horrible, horrible feeling purely because you are afraid that if you let yourself be happy, things are going to go just completely wrong. To clarify, we have the King of Cups. Interesting, because these are very positive cards. The King of Cups, emotional sovereignty, emotional maturity, love, expression of love, all that stuff. But it's like you're not letting yourself have these things. I'm surprised the King of Cups is upright, because it talks about emotional maturity, and yet this feeling that you are feeling right now is quite the opposite. It's a lack of maturity. I'm not saying that as, trying to throw shade at you or anything like this, but when we are emotionally immature, we kind of tend to catastrophize things. And we've all got our immaturities in many different areas of emotion, because no one really teaches us how to do emotions, right? But when it comes to things like a feeling of doom, that's a very specific kind of emotional immaturity, because it's that feeling of not being equipped to handle things going badly. It's that insecurity of, I better not let myself celebrate the wins, because it means that I might lose touch with the danger of life. I might forget how to deal with when things go wrong. That kind of thing. But for the King of Cups to be upright, you might actually, okay. So deep inside your mind, you know that this is wrong. You know that you are not letting yourself celebrate the highs. And you have developed that emotional maturity, but there is like a stubborn fear inside you that is not allowing you to express it. Wow, has it been out of focus this whole time? I'm so sorry. But the emotional maturity is there, but you're kind of not letting it up quite yet. It's like you are so close to getting the point. You are so close to getting the point. And yet there is that nagging fear. But that's okay. That's fine. That's why it's coming up, is to be released. Okay, so this is good. The fact that you have a sense of, I should be letting myself celebrate, but I don't want to because I'm scared, is a step in the right direction. So good on you, pile number 2. The next card we have is the High Priestess in reverse. Yeah, you are not allowing yourself to enjoy this. But in a sense, that was my chair. Sorry about that. Okay, so the High Priestess in reverse. There is a deeper spiritual psychic sense here that you are refusing to let yourself express or enjoy. It's like, okay, in context, say you got a promotion. Okay, you got a promotion at work. It's something you've always wanted, and deep down you knew you would get it. You absolutely knew you would get it because you've done the work, or for whatever reason you are worthy of it. Absolutely. And you denied yourself that. You denied yourself the sense of, I knew this would happen, and it happened. And I think, okay, now this might be a bit of a reach, but do you come from an upbringing where you were told that to celebrate yourself is a sin, is absolutely wrong? It's the worst thing you could do, is recognize the work that you've done. Were you told that true glory is in doing thankless work? that modesty in the sense of, not taking credit for the things you've done and not letting yourself accept gratitude and accept praise is the highest form of virtue. Because I think that would make sense. I think that would tie into both you refusing to accept that you knew you were capable of achieving this, and also refusing to accept compliments and congratulations for achieving this. And it might be like a bit of a war inside your mind, because the emotionally mature part of you is kind of growing and trying to resolve this, is trying to show that, hey, maybe it's time to work past this. But then there is the conditioning that's kind of forcing you in the opposite way. It's kind of telling you like, yeah, but can several generations of my family or of my culture be wrong? But the thing is, there is no right or wrong. There is simply what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And this false modesty that you have only adopted because you think it's a virtue is most certainly not working for you. Because it's not real. It's not honest. It is something that you were taught that you should do, and you are begrudgingly being that modest person, and you're not happy being modest, and you are definitely not happy, not celebrating your wins. So either way you're not happy, you might as well just pick one and go with it. And you might as well pick one that comes naturally to you, which is winning and being celebrated. Because clearly you have the skills for it. But to clarify the High Priestess in reverse, we have the Six of Swords in reverse. Yeah, I think this is just something you're trying to kind of breeze past. You're trying to avoid celebrating your win. You might even have achieved something incredible that most people will never achieve, and you've just not told anyone, really. Because you just want to kind of move past it. Let's just pretend it never happened, because I don't want the spotlight on me, because that would make me a bad person. But the universe is forcing you into situations where you have to face this issue. You have to face this thought pattern. There is no more running away from it. Which is why with the Six of Swords in reverse, you are not being allowed to move past conflict. You have to stay in this conflict. It's an internal conflict, mind you. It is still a conflict. You're going to sit here and you're going to work through it. And I know you don't want to, but you're going to do it anyway. Because there is no option. Okay? So let's have a look at what wounds this might be triggering, although I think we have a fair idea of it, but let's have a look anyway. So what wound is being triggered by this feeling? We have the Five of Coins. Being left out in the cold, not being allowed any abundance, not being allowed any celebration. I think in the past you might have been shunned by your community. This feels like a community type deal, because so much of your message is internal, so much of your healing that's to be done is internal, that I feel like it's that difference between celebrating your individuality versus celebrating who you are in a community. And I think the community that, frankly, you grew up in, honestly, might have shunned people for expressing pride, for expressing individuality, for veering away from dogma, for expressing themselves in ways that this community did not accept or appreciate because it wasn't in the community's best interest for people to go out and do their own thing. And you might have seen people be shunned. You might have been shunned yourself. And as humans, as social creatures, there is a very heavy survival instinct that is tied into being part of a community and being accepted by a community. We've developed many habits as human beings, many instinctive habits that allow us to feel safe when we are in a community of like-minded people. And we express these instincts in many different ways. You know, we have religions, we have cultural practices, we have social practices, we have celebrations, we have wakes, you know, things like that, where it's kind of like a team building exercise type deal, every one of these events. And so as very, very young children, where our very survival depends on this community keeping us safe, we can kind of pick up bits of very, very strong fear that keeps us tied to our communities, no matter what the cost to our own emotional and mental well-being. And I think there is a wound in you that is so deep, Pearl number 2, that fears being shunned by your community, that is causing you to stay in this false modest energy, not letting yourself enjoy life truly, not letting yourself appreciate your own work. So interesting. To clarify the 5 of coins, we have the 9 of coins. That is so interesting because the 9 of coins talks about individual achievement. It talks about harvesting all the seeds that you planted by yourself. It is the card of independence, of solo ventures. It's like you wanted something that was so different from what everyone around you wanted that it made you almost like a target. And it's you've repressed this part of yourself, this huge part of your identity, because you worry that everything you've ever loved, everyone you've ever known, will kick you out. And so even though you are so successful, you are so powerful and skilled and talented, you won't let yourself recognize it. But, you know, when these wounds get triggered, you can either, you know, obey them and go back to your previous conditioning, or you can grow into the version of you that can move past them, that can grow past them. And I think that is definitely what you are being called to this time around. I feel like this wound may have been triggered quite a few times through your life. And when our wounds get triggered, they are opportunities to do better by ourselves, to do better by all that we stand for. And the point I'm trying to make is it's not something to be afraid of. It's not something you should push away. When these wounds come up, it is time. It's an opportunity to become a better person. Become a better person to yourself. Interesting. Okay, so let's look at our next cards. Oh, pile 2, I feel like I want to give you a big old hug. But next we have The star in reverse. There we go. You are not allowed to dream. You are not allowed to hope. You are not allowed to look beyond society and beyond community the way it was. This, I'm going to be honest, this kind of gives me cult leader vibes or cult vibes. I love a good cult documentary, I'm not going to lie. I mean, a documentary about cults, right? Because it is so interesting to learn about the psychological impacts that these things tend to have, especially on people who were kind of raised inside of a cult. And a lot of things, a lot of social practices are very, very cult-like, even though they may not qualify as part of a cult. There is still a lot of cult-like activity out there, and you may have been part of that at a very young age. But with the star in reverse, there's kind of like usually it talks about pessimism or feeling defeated, not knowing if there is anything out there that's even better than where you are right now. But in this context, I'm kind of feeling like whatever this environment was, it kind of took away your right to dream, if that makes sense. Like, you were not even allowed your fantasies. You were not even allowed your flights of fancy. It was so controlling, this environment, that allowing you to dream would mean you were exercising your independence, your individuality, and that was just not okay, because it meant you might have an original thought. And, you know, if you know anything about cults, having original thoughts is the worst sin, the worst crime you could commit in a cult. So, the star is ruled by Aquarius, which is the sign of the outcast, the social outcast, the outlier, the movement maker, the movers, shakers, and producers, that kind of thing. And to have that in reverse definitely tells me that this wound comes from a place where you were not allowed this. You were not allowed to be an outlier. You were not allowed to veer from what was pre-written for you almost. To clarify this, we have the 8 of Coins. The only thing you were allowed to do was work hard and work and work and work and work. And expect no rewards and receive no rewards. Because in this imagery specifically, do you see how she's like working so hard and trying? She knows she doesn't want to be doing this all the time. I mean, obviously that's not the story of this card, of this illustration, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. She knows she doesn't want to be doing this. She knows that she's better suited for so many other things, but she's kind of bound by honor to do this, to work this hard. There's a lot of pentacle cards. I feel like this definitely had a financial aspect as well. You may have been trapped in this situation due to not having the money to get out, but that's kind of driven you to the other extreme where you are now so successful. You may even be a bit of a workaholic because you don't ever want to feel that desperate again. But there is still that emotional wound of not being allowed. Didn't I say emotional sovereignty? Not being allowed sovereignty over your own emotions, over your own fantasies, over your own desires. That makes sense. But it is time, Paltu. It is time to grow through this. Because your work deserves to be recognized. And your intuition deserves to be nurtured. And your dreams, your fantasies need to be expressed. Because if they are not, you are simply one of 7, 8 billion other people on this planet who are doing the same thing every single day. But the fact that you are here today as you, with your lived experience that is not like anyone else's lived experience, means that the change you are meant to bring to this planet is unlike anything anyone else is capable of. And that's what I want you to remember moving forward. When these fears come up, you have to understand that their story is not your story. You are meant to be your own person. You are meant to live your own life. And that involves celebrating everything that makes you unique and powerful. But why now? Why do we need to do this healing now? What's coming in the near future that needs us to be healed from this as much as possible? Let's take a look at the oracle cards for this. So, pile 2, your first card. Whale and Orca elders, share your song. Frequency of sound, diving deep. Share your song. What'd I tell you? Your voice is, honestly, it is so unique and so important to this planet. Your perspective may in the past have been shunned, but you have to teach yourself that that is not the world. That was a tiny corner of a tiny town that I happen to come from. The world out there is massive. Frequency of sound, diving deep. You may actually have musical gifts here. Or you may be clairaudient, something like that. Maybe that's how you knew. You kind of like heard a voice whisper to you that you were about to gain this success. That could be something worth exploring moving forward. Or that might be a gift that comes to you, that makes itself known to you once you've actively started healing this wound, is clairaudience. And also just prophecy, sharing your voice. And we have Lemuria, creating heaven on earth. It is happening. Are we focused? Are we focused? Can we focus? Thank you. Creating heaven on earth. It is happening. Yeah, I think whatever you are about to come into, whatever timeline that you're about to step into, is so, I'm almost hearing it's so romantic. Not in like a lovey-dovey sense, but in a sense of romanticizing your life. Making things as beautiful as possible, as light and happy and desirable as possible. And in order to truly enjoy this time, you need to be present, and you need to be able to appreciate it, and you need to be able to appreciate that you brought this about. You did this. You made these changes. And you deserve this. So let's look at some advice from the Animal Spirit Oracle cards. First, we have the Porcupine Spirit. Time for a beginner's mind. Ooh. We're focusing a little slow today, but I'll just hold this higher up. There we go. Time for beginner's mind. And we have the Cow Spirit. The miracles are endless. I want to read the Cow Spirit one for you guys. So this is number 15. Maybe you were in that situation when you were 15 or 15 years old, but Cow Spirit, the miracles are endless. You are at a beautiful point in your life today, for your needs are being met effortlessly and in so many ways. Fully embrace this truth by focusing on all you have right now, including the positive relationships that sustain you, the work you are proud to do to contribute to the world, and the activities that inspire you and nourish your soul. Now is also the time when you will see many of your projects and commitments that were set in motion in the past begin to yield valuable gifts that will bring you joy and love and sustain you for a long time to come. The more you share, the more you will manifest, so be generous. Cow Spirit promises you will never run out of miracles. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that was your reading, pile number 2, about your villain era and what's coming moving forward and why it's important to heal. If this resonated, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, because it really helps the channel out so much. I thank you so much for spending some time with me today and sharing your energy and allowing me to read for you. I really hope it helped bring you some clarity and support. Stick around to the outro for another reading on my channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye. Pile number 3. Hello, welcome to your reading about your villain era. So today we're taking a look at some feelings, some dark, murky, eerie feelings that might be coming up that you've been avoiding. And we'll take a look at what they're triggering and why it's important to heal this right now because of what's coming in the future, and some advice and all that good stuff. So to start with, if you picked the Sodalite crystal, then this is definitely your reading. I've gone ahead and pre-shuffled our cards. So the way this will work is these cards will tell us what feeling is coming up and what has triggered it, why you're feeling like this, or what feeling you are avoiding that needs to be felt and why it's coming up right now. Then these cards will look at what wound from your past is being triggered by this feeling. And then we'll look at the oracle cards, where these first 2 cards will tell us about why this is coming up right now. What is it in your future that needs you to be healed from this as much as possible before this comes in? And then we'll take a look at your animal spirit oracle advice cards. So, okay, that's enough chit chat. Let's take a look at your first few cards. What feeling is this and why is it coming up? So we have justice in reverse. Straight away, imbalance, a feeling of injustice, a feeling of you are not being seen, you are not being heard, and you are not angled quite right. No, but you are not being heard. I keep hearing that someone is not listening. No one's listening to what you have to say. It's this feeling of, am I talking into the void? Does anything I say even have any weight? Does anyone even care? It's a kind of, do you feel lonely, pile 3? Because justice is the Libra card. It's ruled by Libra, and Libra is usually all about partnerships and such. And you might be in a state of mind where you feel it is so unfair that you have to deal with everything all by yourself. That might be the injustice you're feeling right now. But that's just me channeling. Like, that doesn't necessarily have to do with the card itself. But, you know, it's just a feeling I had. In either case, though, you feel like the scales are tipped against you for some reason. It's like no one is there for you. No one cares enough to intervene on your behalf. You feel like you keep fighting everyone else's fights, but no one is fighting yours. And, this reading is quite introspective. It's supposed to be. That's how I intend to read these cards today. So, my question to you is that real? Or do you feel that because you haven't asked for what you need from people? And I'm not trying to gaslight you. I'm not trying to say, you're the weird one for having needs and needing people. Not at all. However, sometimes when we are not used to asking for what we need from the people that we love, we can then resent them for not giving us what we need. We can resent them for not reading our minds, essentially. And this feeling of injustice that you have, is it coming from a place of feeling like your needs are not being met? And if so, have you voiced your needs? This is something to think about. But to clarify the justice in reverse, we have the Ace of Cups. I definitely feel like this is about a relationship, that you might be asking about a relationship here. Let me just scoot my chair a little bit because it's a little uncomfortable. Okay, so I think this might be about a relationship, a romantic relationship, to be precise, where you kind of feel like this is an unequal partnership because your needs are not being met. And if that is absolutely the case, then, it's definitely a conversation worth having. But since we're looking at what you are feeling in the context of where does the healing have to happen, I do feel like this might be an internal monologue that you may have created around the idea of, no one sees me, no one hears me, no one ever cares about me, everyone only takes from me, no one gives to me. And that may be something that you've learned from previous relationships, and it may well have been true. But the fact that the Ace of Cups is here, the partnership that you are currently in is divinely guided. It is divinely brought into your life. And I do think you even recognize on most levels that this is a healthy relationship. But still that feeling persists of feeling alone in a connection. And I think that's the feeling that's coming up for us today. Interesting. Let's take a look at why this might be. And, I want to preface this by saying I'm not judging you whatsoever because your girl's in the same boat, okay? Like, I get it. The feeling of loneliness is insane, even when you are surrounded by people who genuinely love you. And it's so hard to voice what we need. But when these things come up, I should warn you, this is going to be an uncomfortable reading, okay? So if you're not in the headspace, click away, come back later. But you definitely need this message. You need to do this healing, okay? But anyway, the next card is the Ten of Cups in reverse. This is for sure about a relationship. And I feel like you might have a perfectionistic tendency when it comes to romance, where you have this idea of this is what a healthy relationship should look like. You may, okay, I'm going to say something and it's going to make you upset, but hear me out. I am not accusing you of anything. I am calling myself out as much as I'm calling you out. But you may be someone who scrolls through a lot of pop psychology reels on Instagram that talk about healthy relationships and what a relationship should be like and what it should look like and what your partner should be doing for you and, what kind of communication you should have, yada, yada, yada. And because of that, because you're not able to take every single checkbox in your relationship right now that you have, you might be thinking, oh, then clearly this person is not the one for me. Right? The issue here is a lot of these pop psychology reels tend to be quite limited. Obviously, because they need to get as much information out as they can in 60 seconds. But you'll see way more reels or way more information out there about how your partner should treat you, and not so much about how you should treat your partner. And I'm not saying that you are not treating your partner right, but a big part of being in a balanced relationship is expressing your needs. Now, I'm awful at this. Okay, so this is definitely advice coming from someone who's working on this, let's say. But putting your needs out there is the most important thing you can do for your relationship, because then it allows the other person to show up in the way you need them to show up. And that way, you start to feel supported, you start to feel seen, you start to feel heard, you start to feel like this is a balanced relationship because you are finally receiving what you need to receive. I think there is a big romanticization about, psychically connected relationships that we see in a lot of romance movies where like, oh, he can just feel it when I'm upset and that kind of thing. That's not real. I mean, I'm sure it could be if you are, connected to that person for that long. But when relationships are fairly new, and the fact that you may be considering that this person might not be the one for you suggests that this relationship is quite new. This ESP psychic connection is just simply not plausible this early. Clearly because you have not allowed this person to get to know you by withholding what you need from them. Right? So I don't think the question is this the person for me? The question is, am I asking for what I need from this relationship? Okay, let's switch the narrative a little bit and shift the focus from this other person to ourselves. Shift it internally. To clarify, we have the Page of Pentacles. Yeah, there is definitely kind of a new energy. Now, I'm not saying this is a brand new person and they haven't been in your life long at all. Every relationship is different, but in terms of a connectivity scale, I do think this is a fairly new relationship. In the sense of you are simply getting to know each other. You are just now starting to really invest in this connection. And that makes sense that it's bringing out these fears, because when we invest in something, we want to make sure that investment is worthwhile, even if it is an emotional investment in a relationship. So it's, I think you are definitely someone who has wanted a relationship, a soulmate relationship, for a very long time, for the 10 of Cups to come out. And this connection that you've stepped into, this is not a love reading. I can't tell you whether this is your soulmate or not. That's not why we're here. The point is to give this relationship a fighting chance. The balance needs to come from within. It's about not expecting your partner to anticipate your needs, but rather to put them out up front. And I'll make you a deal. I'll work on this if you work on this. Okay? And we can work on this together. And I don't know you personally, but in spirit, we can know that there is at least one other person out there who is struggling with this and working through this with me. Okay? So, make you a deal. But let's talk about what wound these emotions are triggering for you. Okay, so the reason I put this section in, I don't know why I'm explaining this to you. I haven't explained it to any of the other groups, but the reason I wanted to put in what wound is this triggering for you, this feeling. The reason I put this into this reading was because a lot of the times when we find the root cause of our issue, we understand all the ways in which our fears may not be the most logical or rational or even necessary. Okay? So, what wounds is this triggering? We have the Hermit. There's a heavy loneliness theme here. I think you are someone who prides yourself in enjoying your own company. And you may have had to be all by yourself for a very long time in order to protect yourself. You may be a little afraid of being around a lot of people, which I totally get. It's fair enough. And there is... Okay, so most of us prefer to be around a lot of people because it makes us feel safe, it makes us feel comfortable. So if you don't enjoy being around people, it's because being around people makes you feel unsafe. And it's unhealthy to feel that way in the sense of, in assuming that every single person out there is going to hurt us, we are painting everyone with a broad brush and we are not allowing for individuals to be different. Which means we tend to look at our previous experience and extrapolate it to future relationships. So maybe in the past, you've had a relationship go very, very wrong and it's hurt you immensely. And you chose to go inwards instead. And you chose to be by yourself for a long time. And then along comes this person who may not be the first person to come along since this period of pain or whatever. But this is different. And this has potential. And so you let your guard down. And now it's triggering these wounds that you haven't thought about for a very long time because you had resigned yourself to being alone for the foreseeable future because that was safe. And so with the Hermit here, I think it's not that it's triggering your loneliness. It's kind of triggering the sense of security that being alone would have brought you. Interesting. Interesting, pile 3. Okay, to clarify the Hermit, we have the Ace of Coins in reverse. Yeah, I think there has definitely been at least one previous relationship, possibly multiple, but at least one big one, where you invested a lot in this person, whoever this was. I don't think they're in your life anymore in any capacity, but I think the scars that they left you with still feel very fresh. And I think you've spent a long time healing from it, and you know how hard it is to do that healing work. And because of that, you might be extra guarded about letting people in. And because of that, you might be seeing this person's lack of ability to meet your needs as a slight against you. It's because you're a little hyper vigilant about letting people in. Because the last time you did, something went horribly wrong. But the thing to remember is, again, about that extrapolation. Just because one person was that way does not mean every person you will encounter moving forward is going to treat you the same. This reading is immensely healing for me, you guys. So thank you for picking this pile. Thank you for being here, because it's your energy that dictates these cards, right? And this has been immensely healing for me because this is definitely something I'm coping with right now. But yeah, man. It is important to remember that solitude, yes, very important, allows us to meet ourselves, allows us to heal privately, but it can also cause us to put some very strong, very heavy walls up that keep us from new opportunities. What else do we know about this wound that's being triggered? We have the Four of Cups. Again, it's that same message over and over again. I feel like your reading is so straightforward. Your guides, the universe, whoever is here giving you this message, knows exactly what the issue is and knows that you know exactly what the issue here is, right? Because the Four of Cups talks about looking at all the cups in front of you and not being satisfied when there is one out there that can give you exactly what you want. And in this context, the assumption would be that this person might be this cup, but instead, what I'm going to tell you now is this opportunity here is your healing. It's not a person. It's not a string of people. It's not a relationship. It is your own healing. It is the understanding that relationships might fall apart sometimes. They might hurt us tremendously sometimes. But that doesn't mean you will have a string of identical ones. And that doesn't mean every single person out there who wants your attention is out to hurt you. To clarify the Four of Cups, we have the Nine of Wands in reverse. It's like you'd given up the fight of it. I think you've been in such a turbulent relationship or a string of turbulent relationships in the past that moving forward, you don't want any conflict whatsoever. And there may have been a conflict that just came up between you and your person, whoever is in your life right now. And because of this, it's kind of sending you running right back to your hermit mode where you're like, I told myself no more conflict. I will not deal with this. I don't have the energy for this. You do. Pile 3. You too. And conflict is the very nature of relationships because it is only through conflict that we grow and evolve. It is about finding healthy conflict. It's about knowing which fights are worth fighting and which ones are just worth walking away from. And I do think that this might be a fight worth fighting because this is a divinely guided relationship that's been brought to you because you are ready. You've done your healing, you've licked your wounds, you've healed. It is time to now move forward. In fact, that might be like the last straw that leads you to just complete fulfillment, complete healing, is allowing yourself to accept some things about this relationship that may not be perfect all the time, because this is a human being you're in a relationship with, and human beings are inherently flawed. And it's not going to be 100% all the time. And that's okay. It doesn't mean this person has slighted you. It doesn't mean this person has hurt you. It doesn't mean this person meant to ruin your day and ruin your life or any of that. You know, it's not, they don't mean to hurt you. They are simply being a human being. And while it is important for your partner to treat you right, it is just as important for you to hold space for them to go through their growing and their healing as well. We can't expect people to give us what we are not willing or even able to give them back. And a big part of that for you, I think, is holding space for conflict. Even if it feels icky at the time, even if it feels just awful and scary and triggering and, all the time, every time there's a conflict. Because it's bringing you back to these wounds from the past. But that's not fair to the other person to have to walk on eggshells around you. And that's the lesson here. But let's take a look at what's coming for you that requires you to have healed this. Pile 3. So first we have deep cellular healing, Arcturus energy, physical and emotional healing. I think when you work through these wounds, not only will your mind feel healthier and better equipped to cope with a good, healthy, solid relationship, I think you may actually store a lot of these dark emotions in your body as well. And as you work towards consciously, actively healing these insecurities, these fears, you may find that your body is, releasing all this trauma as well. You may find that your health improves a lot. And who you are visually is changing as well. You may see your self-confidence improve. You may see your fitness improve. You may see your aesthetic change. You might transform so dramatically. And it's all because this person triggered you. And you're going to get to a place where you turn around and thank them. You say, thank you for fighting me on this one thing one time. Because it meant I learned healthy conflict. It meant that I'm safe. I feel loved. That's powerful. Pile 3. That is so powerful. Our next card is Anna, grandmother of Jesus, seeding the light, laying the foundations, divine plan. I told you this is a divinely guided relationship, or alternately, it is leading you to your divine partner, whoever they may be. In either case, you are laying the foundations for a healthy relationship with this person. This is you learning what it takes to be in a healthy relationship, because your previous relationship sure didn't teach you that. It certainly taught you how to protect yourself and how to put your needs first, but also keep them hidden. It taught you to walk away from conflict, which was important in order to protect your safety. And I understand that. But having been through that, it is also important to then look at the other type of conflict, look at the other type of relationship that doesn't need you to do any of that. It just needs you to show up. And at the end of the day, it is all healing. It is all learning and growing. And that's perfectly fine. But think of this as like a sandbox mode. It's the early stages of the relationship. You haven't set anything in stone yet. This is the time where you work through all the little, bends and kinks. You discover how you are in a conflict. You discover how this person is in a conflict. This is an opportunity to learn the darker aspects of yourself and of your person. that is what laying the foundations means in a relationship. It is learning the side of this person that they haven't shown you as of yet. Then, of course, you are free to decide whether that's something you can cope with, that's something you can work with, or you want to be around, or you can love, or if it's time to walk away. In either case, you are learning about them, and that's what really matters. Okay, let's take a look at some advice from the Animal Spirit Oracle deck. We have Bobcat Spirit. Life is a mystery. Oh, can we focus? Thank you. Nope. Focus again. Focus again for me, please. Thank you. Life is a mystery. Yep. There will always be parts that you won't know, that you won't know enough to feel safe about. We feel safe when we understand everything, when we can, see everything clear as day. Wow, I just had a massive power outage. Sorry about that, you guys. But we're working with the flash, we're working with camera audio. We're gonna get through this. But yeah, when we don't know everything about a situation or a person, that's when we start to kind of feel a little afraid. But true healing is in embracing the mystery of it all. And we have the Starfish Spirit in reverse. Are we going to focus? Yes, we are. Oh, that was my chair. Open to infinite possibility in reverse. I think I'm going to read this one from the book. So that's card number 59. The dogs are going crazy outside. Starfish Spirit, open to infinite possibility in reverse. When cynicism says no, Starfish Spirit says yes 1,000 times over. Are you willing to entertain new possibilities? Let go of your rigid beliefs about, let go of your rigid beliefs about what is possible for you, and let Starfish Spirit inspire you to open your heart and your eyes to what Spirit has available to you. Now is a time to stretch beyond the familiar and unfurl yourself, for you are meant for more than you are imagining for yourself. Spirit wants the best for you and will support you in achieving whatever intention you hold dear. So that is your message, you guys, for your villain era, what needs healing and what emotions we are working with. I really hope this resonated. If it did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that cool stuff, because it really helps the channel out so much. You can check out more readings on my channel. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time and energy with me and letting me read for you. I really hope this brought you some sort of support and clarity. Stick around to the outro for another reading on my channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.